All right, we've been warning you now for weeks. Thousands upon thousands of undocumented migrants, they have been marching towards America, our southern border. Now, the vast majority of these people, I have been saying, I believe, are coming here in search of a better life, more opportunity, the land of opportunity and freedom. But here's the problem. These individuals, they have not been vetted, no background checks, no criminal history checks, no proof of employment, no family ties to the U.S., no comprehension in some cases of what the laws of America are, no case for asylum. Many have no paperwork whatsoever, but they're demanding entry into the United States. And tonight, the first migrants have now reached our southern border, a group of around 80 migrants that split off from the much larger group. They claimed widespread harassment, mistreatment at the hands of their fellow migrants, and they were able to fast-track their journey north in vans to the United States. And according to the AP tonight, while another group of several hundred migrants will arrive in the next few days. Now, some have tried to scale a U.S. border fence. Look at these videos right near Tijuana. Others crawled through openings in that fence, forced to crawl back because U.S. Border Patrol agents responded, and they were about to enforce the law. That is not a good first impression. This is just a small part of how many people are actually coming, and a clear warning of a looming crisis. And according to reports from Mexican officials, as many as 10,000 migrants are just days away. Now, the Department of Homeland Security is warning, and they have put out statements that over 270 suspected criminals, gang members, drug traffickers have been blending in with what is a mostly male caravan. We've also learned that some illegal immigrants previously deported from the U.S., they're also attached to the group. Now, 7,000 active duty U.S. soldiers, they have been deployed to help secure the southern border. Now, they have been laying razor wire and constructing other barriers to prevent illegal immigration, protecting our sovereignty, our rule of law. We are a constitutional republic. It's important to remember, weeks ago, we witnessed the breaking down of that fence, as you can see, in southern Mexico on their border, crashing the gates into that country. This is a serious situation, an important reminder about why strong borders, the rule of law, and yes, the wall are so important. Now, if the president's plan had been implemented so far for a massive border wall, that had been completed with a big door in it, as he has said, the situation would be mitigated. It would be controlled. As a matter of fact, it would not even be a possibility of some type of confrontation at our border. God forbid. America needs immigrants, but we have to vet anyone, everyone coming into this country. We have to do everything in our power to prevent criminals, other bad people, even if they're mixing in with good people, from entering this country. And this is the very reason even Democrats just a few short years ago supported the enforcement of our border laws and our border. Remember this.
I voted numerous times when I was a senator to spend money to build a barrier to try to prevent illegal immigrants from coming in. And I do think you have to control your borders.
People who enter the United States without our permission are illegal aliens, and illegal aliens should not be treated the same as people who entered the U.S. legally. The American people will never accept immigration reform unless they truly believe that their government is committed to ending future illegal immigration.
Those who enter our country illegally and those who employ them disrespect the rule of law. And because we live in an age where terrorists are challenging our borders, we cannot allow people to pour into the U.S. undetected, undocumented, and unchecked.
Oh, of course, now they're singing a much different tune. They sounded like Donald Trump. The party has moved so far radical left that virtually no Democrat supports border enforcement. And now with the caravan marching north, the left is doing anything and everything to play this situation down. It could get serious. Imagine for a second, thousands of people, not just 80, at the border. What happens then? Take a look.
When we're sending 15,000 troops to the border for a political stunt, that's a warning sign.
There is no doubt that what the president was considering great strategy to bring out his base, with, this stupid caravan conspiracy theory, which he hasn't talked about since Election Day.
We see what he's doing with our troops at the border, essentially using them as props.
It seems that we've gotten the all clear, the emergency is over, and the solution to the caravan invasion all along, it wasn't the troops, it wasn't walls, it was apparently just getting past the midterm elections.
And I just remember when I would look up every single night, every single show, the caravan is coming and there's people are coming and they're going to take your jobs and they're going to be doing all this. And it's like, and now you don't hear anything. And those people, they bought it hook, line, and sinker. People bought it. Oh, my gosh, we should be putting a barbed wire. Don't you want to be ready?
Some people did.
Oh, my gosh.
Some people.
Now, unlike CNN, MSNBC, their cohorts in the Democratic Party, we are going to continue to track what is a very serious situation. And meanwhile, we're also following some horrific news out of California. Wildfires ripping through areas in both northern and southern California. Now, the statewide death toll is now up to 51. Thousands of buildings, homes, other structures destroyed, billions of dollars in damages, and an entire town was even burned to the ground. The devastation is shocking. Tonight, many are looking for answers, making a serious case. Could this fire have been prevented? Now, according to the Wall Street Journal editorial board tonight, federal, state environmental protections have left California's drought-impacted forests vulnerable to these fires. Now, there's nearly 130 million trees that are dead, that have died in the past 7 years alone. The government has been preventing them from being cleared. For example, quote, the Endangered Species Act, the National Environmental Policy Act have hampered tree clearing, controlled burns, timber sales on federal land. And the article goes on, quote, California also restricts timber harvesting and requires myriad permits and environmental impact statements to prune overgrown forests. And in California, quote, to burn leaves, tree limbs, landowners must obtain air quality permits. Now, these permits are extremely restrictive, can be difficult to produce, controlled maintenance in California's forests. We now, when we get these forests put out, when these fires are put out, this has to be a top priority. We cannot put people's lives in jeopardy. These fires cause far worse environmental damage than a controlled burn or timber excavation. And human lives are irreplaceable here. It shouldn't take another fire for laws to be adjusted. And all of people in California now in these areas have their lives at risk. And by the way, our prayers are with all of them, all impacted by this horrific crisis. Look at that. It is out of control, and we will continue to track this story. But first, we do turn to Florida, the election catastrophe that is ongoing. Tonight, the statewide recount continues with tomorrow's deadline looming. Both Republicans, Ron DeSantis, Rick Scott, they do look poised for victory. And tonight, there are still so many questions surrounding the sketchy actions of Broward County and its supervisor of elections, Brenda Snipes. Now, she somehow managed to magically find, oh, I found it, 75,000 purportedly uncounted ballots days and days after election night. By the way, all in violation of state law and the state constitution. And Snipes continued to report these ballots in the week following the election. And for days, she wouldn't tell anybody where these ballots were coming from. Now, tonight, we still have no idea what happened. And President Trump, he is calling for her to be fired. But as the recount rolls on, Snipes, well, did have time to go on CNN and defend herself. Take a look.
You have been cited, Ms. Snipes, as a problem in this process, that you're not doing the job with transparency and you're not doing it with the efficiency that gives confidence in the overall process. How do you respond?
Well, you know, those are opinions that people have put forward for their own various reasons. But I'd like to call to your attention that this midterm election, in addition to running very smoothly, was one of the most highly participated midterm elections probably that we've had in 20 years or more. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes to make an election possible, to make it efficient, and to make it something that voters want to participate in. And obviously, we're doing that.
All right, now, given a poor track record, as we have detailed every night on this program, with deadlines Maybe she needs to be doing her job, counting the votes instead of going on interviews. Now, tonight, Florida is not the only state facing some insane election drama. In the state of Georgia tonight, Democrats are refusing to concede that governor's race, and that's between Stacey Abrams and Republican Brian Kemp, despite no path to victory for Abrams. And by the way, they're not stopping there. Far left, Ohio Senator Sherrod Brown, he is ramping up election conspiracy theories, accusing Republicans of outright stealing the election. Kind of rich, considering all we've seen in Florida. Take a look.
If Stacey Abrams doesn't win in Georgia, they stole it. It's clear. It's clear. And I say that publicly, it's clear. They can't win elections because there's way more of us than there are them. They can't win elections fairly. They win elections by redistricting and reapportionment, in voter suppression, in all the ways they try to scare people, particularly people of color, how they make it hard for people on college campuses, especially community college where there are more low-income people and more people of color.
Beyond sad, despicable, sadly predictable at sometimes with some people, stirring racial tensions, fueling baseless accusations. And remember, redistricting, that would have zero impact or effect on a statewide race. But of course, this is nothing new from this crop of radical Democrats. There seem to be no moderates left in the party. They're all literally cheering for Robert Mueller. Please find something, anything. We can't do it on our own. And tonight we do have new developments from that witch hunt. Fox News has learned that President Trump and his legal team are now on the verge of making a decision about whether to submit written answers to the special counsel. That development follows the latest stunt from Senator Jeff Snowflake, who again today exposed himself, well, not as a conservative. Now, Majority Leader McConnell flatly rejected Flake's bill, quote, protecting Mueller to the floor. The president has said recently he has no plans to do anything with Mueller. And Flake is threatening the president, all his Republican colleagues, saying he will oppose all of the president's judicial nominees until he gets his way and the Senate votes on that legislation that supposedly protects Mueller from being fired by the president, which isn't happening. Blocking conservative judges, breaking a promise to the people you represent in Arizona. Senator Flake, tonight, he should be ashamed. And also breaking today, the armchair constitutional scholars on left-wing, mainstream, so-called media networks and in the Democratic Party, they were all wrong. The acting attorney general, as we told you on this program, Matt Whitaker, he did receive the full backing of the Department of Justice. The DOJ today releasing a 20-page memo explaining exactly the things we told you, that Whitaker is unquestionably authorized to lead the department. And they cited the very law we had cited, a 1998 law that called the Federal Vacancies Reform Act and the Appointments Clause of the U.S. Constitution, adding that there have been, quote, countless similar presidential orders dating back over 200 years. And finally tonight, we're going to end with one very important topic, and it's called due process, the presumption of innocence. I have been saying all during the Kavanaugh hearings, a foundational principle in a fair and just society. It has served this country so well. A pillar, our constitutional republic. And by the way, if you remember during Kavanaugh's confirmation hearings, we defended this principle from baseless attacks and irresponsible accusations by individuals, some on the left, some for political gain. And, of course, we have that fame-seeking attorney, Michael Avenatti. He was one of those irresponsible actors, and he brought forth claims from a client who accused Kavanaugh of gang rape almost on a weekend basis and drugging young teenage girls and boys lining up in the halls and one by one, quote, waiting their turn to rape these young women. There was no evidence. That story eventually changed. Avenatti demanded that his client and all others, they made accusations that they should all be believed. You might remember this.
If the president was smart, if he wasn't so arrogant, he would see the writing on the wall and he would pull this nomination immediately.
If you make accusation or allegation the bar of whether or not you stay or go, Michael, what does that set up for the future?
I mean, that's a very good point, Chris, but I think we're beyond that from what I understand relating to the lie detector test being passed, which, of course, is not admissible in a court of law. We're not talking about a mere accusation or allegation. And here's another important point. This isn't going to be adjudicated in 1 day or even 2 days.
Now, we learned tonight that Michael Avenatti has been arrested. He was taken into custody by the LAPD. He has been charged with serious charge, and that would be felony domestic violence. He is denying these allegations. He is proclaiming his innocence, and I will be consistent on the issues of due process and the presumption of innocence. But one can only wonder if now maybe Michael Avenatti would apply the same standard to himself that he applied to Justice Kavanaugh. Or maybe tonight he would prefer that the country give him due process and the presumption of innocence. Or will you lock yourself up and just throw away the key? I believe he deserves presumption of innocence, due process. Let the legal system do their job, and hope and pray that the right justice and answer comes through.